All right, this is Brent Marvick with BP Kitchen Equipment, and we have here a 2020 Bizerba GSP HDW slicer. Although it doesn't say HDW on the tag right here, you can tell that it is due to this. W stands for weighing platter, and this is a weighing platter. The slicer has a built-in portion scale underneath here, and an HMI screen that the normal automatics don't have, the regular HDs. More on that later though. We're going to talk about the overall slicer's condition as of right now. This slicer is in really good shape. We're going to be selling it for a little bit more because it actually has new parts on it. The slicer has some slight normal wear that you would see on the corners. You can see that here, for example, right there, like a light scratch right here. It really is extremely minimal, which is why we put the new parts on this slicer. Again, normally there's a lot more dings and scratches, kind of like that, but on the actual visible parts of the slicer, this thing barely had any. What we did do is we put a brand new portion scale platter on it. So this portion scale has never been used. It's brand new from Bizerba. If you buy the slicer, you will be the first to actually use this. Additionally, we actually do this with all of our HDWs, but we include a used sharpener with brand new stones. The sharpener has also been calibrated to the slicer. We do that because you actually need to have the HDWs calibrated whenever you receive them. I'll explain more of this later. But as for the parts, this slicer also has a brand new remnant grip. This little plastic right here that will hold your meat. That is brand new, never been used. That is OEM from Bizerba. We don't use knockoff stuff. Same with this, OEM from Bizerba, blade cover, never used. Blade is in really good shape. It has most of its life still left. Yeah, so this slicer is it's in really good shape. The only real issue that we had with this was you can see underneath here this bottom plastic that covers the whole thing. Both these corners were busted right at the corners. What we do is we actually cut off the sections that are bad, 3D print replacements out of the same type of plastic, and glue it on there just to protect your motherboards. We do that because we warranty our work for 120 days. We want this to be a long-lasting solution for you and your company. We want to have a good relationship. We want to have good reviews. Yeah, so we just make sure that everything works as it should. I'll talk real briefly about what we do as refurbishers. Every slicer goes through a 120-point checklist that I came up with. It involves going over all of the mechanical sections. Make sure that this spins, for example. We actually ultrasonically clean all the parts we can remove, everything in here, this whole rod assembly. I'll alcohol wipe all this off. We'll oil it. This will come to you oiled with OEM Bizerba H1 Food Safe oil. We clean out this knob assembly, everything else underneath, the whole assembly that makes this gauge plate go up and down. That has been cleaned, sanitized, and re-lubricated so that it would be as you buy it from the factory. It's not going to be dirty, it's not going to be under-lubricated, but it's going to be ready for use. Let's see here. So we check the mechanical. Let's talk about electrical real quick. These boards that are underneath these slicers, they're really expensive. If you have to replace one, I mean, you're looking at like a $3,000 expense if you buy it from Bizerba. What we do is we just make sure that these boards work. We actually had a 2023 in the past that it was used for maybe a couple months. But once we got it, we realized that this board was bad. Although it worked, it would turn on, it would go back and forth, the carriage would slide, the blade would run. But it was giving us an error as we were going through the testing. We realized that it's a low voltage error, which just means that the board's limping along. It would still work, but it wouldn't work for that long. So we just make sure that all the parts that are on this do in fact work. They pass our tests. We want to warranty it for 120 days because we stand behind our work. Something else we do on these HDWs is we actually update the software. So you can see here, HMI software, motor control software. It's been updated to the most recent update. I guess while I'm here, I'll explain that we also give access to the operator and the service menus for our buyers. Operator manual is useful for a number of reasons, so is the service menu. I'll be doing a video on that at some point, just to showcase the benefits of buying from BP equipment. Before we get into the HMI, let's see here, I'll also explain that I make sure that this blade's gonna work for you. I sharpen it, so this is gonna arrive to you razor sharp, ready for use. As such, you can see that this blade will be sharp enough to easily cut a sheet of paper, like this. No nicks will be in the blade. We also make sure that the blade's gonna have at least 66% of its lifespan left. What we do is we also put the better blades on a nicer model. So if you get a nicer model, you're going to get a better blade. All these HDWs have barely used blades for sure. Reason that you can tell that it's barely used is this gap from Bizerba is 1 millimeter. Bizerba recommends you place it at 6 millimeters, which means there's 5 millimeters of use. We make sure that 66% of that 5 millimeters is still in this blade. All right. Yes, that's enough about the refurbishment. Backed by 120 days. You're gonna get a functioning slicer from us. You're not gonna have to call somebody out to fix anything. There's gonna be no surprises on these slicers. So let's get into, one last thing that I would like to talk about is that we calibrate the safety mechanisms. So here's one example. This blade is currently exposed, right? So you could, if you were to stick your hand in there, you could cut yourself. Let's say that your employee doesn't realize it's exposed and he goes to clean it. He won't be able to pull the carriage back due to the safety mechanisms being calibrated. Bizerba did a good job of this, and we just want to make sure that Bizerba's mechanisms are going to be functioning on arrival. So up until you put it all the way to the right, this carriage will not open. Once it is to the right and the blade is recessed, as it's in the black, this carriage will open. You can clean it. Right now you can see that the blade is running. I can't cut myself. This gauge plate needs to be 1.5 millimeter above the blade when it's recessed. I make sure that it actually is. It's just a safety mechanism. We just want to make sure that everyone's, gonna get a well-functioning product. What we also do is we make sure that these numbers actually correspond to the number of millimeters. These are not arbitrary, so you can see right now we're at 2 millimeters. This blade is actually going to be 2 millimeters above this gauge plate, which means whatever you cut will be 2 millimeters thick. All right, now we talked about that. Let's talk about how these HDWs work, generally speaking. So I'll go through the process. So this is how manuals work. You turn them on, the blade's spinning, and then the carriage, you're able to move back and forth. So you can do small strokes, you can do long strokes, whatever it is that you need, but somebody will need to stand here. The HDW can be run in that mode. Another benefit of the automatic models is the fact that it's technically assisted. So you can see here, I'm just going to do a light push. This blade's going to go and this carriage is going to go and return back. It's just nice. It's an added benefit. If you have employees that are just on this all day long, they're not going to throw out their shoulder. It just assists them a little bit. The other mode, this is why you would actually get this model, is the automatic. So just like the normal automatic models, there's a manual and an automatic mode. We're going to ignore this for the time being. Then there's a carriage stroke length, so how far the carriage moves, whether small, medium, or long. We're going to leave it at long. And the speed. Because this is on a Lazy Susan, we're going to leave it at slow. But this is the real benefit of getting one of these slicers, is that you can put your product on there and you can walk away. You can have your employees or yourself go do your own thing. You can come back and have your product all ready for you on the back end. These HDWs work just like the HDs do. There are automatics. They will just infinitely cut, just like the HDs will. The real benefit to these is this weighing putter, and that's what we're gonna get into right now. So right now we've just talked about manual versus automatic, carriage stroke length, and carriage stroke speed, right? This is you know, the real difference between these HDs. So currently this little circle means that we're gonna cut to a target cut amount. So I'm gonna do 10 cuts, let's say. I'm gonna cut it at, let's call it 2 millimeters, right? And since it's in automatic mode, let me turn down that, there we go. Since it's in automatic mode, I can just walk away. I can just walk away and this slicer is gonna do its thing until it reaches the target amount of 10 cuts. As we can see, that's the target, that's the actual amount. It's been reached, so the machine stops. So you can have these preset values. So, you know, 10, 30, 50, 80, infinite, it'll just infinitely cut. You can also change these. Let's say that I wanna have 100 pieces of cheese for prep. I can just set that in there. I can change this 50 to 80 if I want. Whatever you're wanting to change, you can change these preset values. It's pretty cool. The real benefit to this machine is this section though. This is the scale setting. So here are the slices settings. This is the scale setting. So this is in ounces. So let's say that I want to cut a half an ounce. I can just hit that value. Say I want to cut 0.75. Let's turn this up to 0.75. There we go. I can hit that and I can walk away. And this is going to cut until it reaches 0.75. The moment I put a little bit of weight on it, it stopped automatically. You can change these preset values to be whatever you want. Right now we're at 1.5, for example. Let's say I want to do 10 ounces. Say that's going to be something that I regularly have to do. I can just automatically set it as that and I can adjust from there. Put it down to 1.5. What I really like about these machines is this though, infinite. This doesn't work as the infinite slicing one does, where it'll just run forever. What this infinite actually does, the infinite weight, is it's going to keep slicing until no more weight is being added to the portion scale. The real benefit to that is if you have a huge amount to cut. Say you have a ham that comes up to here, you need to cut. Instead of having your employee here, you're going to have them lop it on there, walk away and go do something else, right? The great thing about these HDWs is, unlike the HDs are just going to keep running, you know, until that employee comes back. Let's say they forget going to lunch break and they come back and it's still running, right? Bizerba recommends that you service these machines after a certain amount of stroke lengths. The reason that I like this setting is because you can set it where it's going to cut until no more weight is being added. So we're going to put on a little bit of weight, right? It's going to go up to 21 ounces. Then after a couple stroke lengths, it's just going to shut off because it recognizes that no more weight is being added. See? I really like that function due to the fact that it's going to reduce the amount of work that you or your employees are going to have to be doing standing in front of the slicer, and it's going to be reducing the amount of maintenance you got to do in the long run. So I really like that. There's a lot more that I could say. This slicer will automatically tell you when it needs to be cleaned, when it needs to be sharpened. You can customize that schedule, so you can customize the cleaning or sharpening schedule, whatever you need. You can customize the speed, the blade speed, you know, RPMs, so low, medium, high. You can say, hey, I want high to be 250. You can change that to be 300 if you want. It's a very customizable setup. I like it a lot. I'll be doing an in-depth video on it later. But yeah, for the time being, yeah, this is Bremar with BP Kitchen Equipment. This video ran over quite a bit of time, but let me know if you have any questions. I'd be more than happy to explaining anything to you, and I hope you have a good day.